Hello and welcome to Västra Hamnen Market Focus. My name is Jacob Murat and I'm an analyst here at the firm. Today I am alone in the studio, but I'm joined in spirit by Michael-Robin Witt, CEO of Gabather. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you, Jacob. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So, Robin, you recently released your Q3 report and you've released some other news during the quarter as well. So, I think we should just jump right into it and have you answer some questions for us. How does that sound?
Okay, shoot.
So earlier this year, we've talked about this before, you encountered some quality problems in the production process of GT002. What is the status now?
Well, we went all the way back. We addressed these problems over the last couple of months. The new material is produced. It's being packaged right now, and the last quality control, quality assurance is being done this week, and then it will be sent to the site in Denmark.
Sounds good. What does this cost you in terms of money and time as well?
Well, it's not so much the money, it's mainly the issue here was the timing. And, it's like, say you want to launch a rocket and it doesn't work, then you have to go all the way back to the manufacturer to see what was actually the issue. And that is what took us the last 3 months to get back to where we are now, ready to ship the product to the clinical site.
Ready to go to the moon.
Yep.
I think that's a good analogy. So the totem study will soon be underway.
That's
When
right.
will the first patients be included?
Well, I'm in touch with the Danish side, of course, because they are more than eager to start. I don't know if they will actually start before the Christmas time, December, but for sure latest at the very beginning of the next year.
And you recently published an article, or the recently published article outlines CAIS, cognitive impairments associated with schizophrenia, as a therapeutic area. Would you be able to describe this condition a bit more precisely for us out of the loop?
Yeah, so schizophrenia is a very serious neuropsychiatric disorder. It starts in early adolescence. It's basically a lifelong disease, and there's a number of symptoms. They are divided into medical world, positive, negative symptoms. Positive symptoms if you have active hallucinations, negative symptoms if you withdraw completely, and cognitive impairment and cognitive symptoms are basically that you lose the ability to think in a structured way. So you're not able anymore to process information and to react, in a logical, structured, planning way. You lose your ability to plan forward, and so your behavior changes completely, and your inability to solve simple mental tasks. Memory is affected, learning is affected. So it's very serious symptoms.
And what are the treatment options today?
I don't think there are any treatment options that can actually address CIAS currently, to my knowledge at least. There are, of course, options for positive symptoms, but not for CIS.
And how could GT002 help these patients?
Well, our hope and our vision actually is that with the neural fingerprint we're going to talk about later, i.e. the way GT002 affects the brain pattern activity, that it can actually set the stage, set the activity pattern in the brain in such a way that cognition is actually improved in these patients.
And in another recent press release, you stated different market shares of a global market. Which regional market is it that you're prioritizing?
Well, we are still, very much being a Swedish company working looking at Europe. But interesting aspect of this is, of course, since schizophrenia is a worldwide disease, and in all countries, 1% of the population suffers it, so it's quite prevalent. But interesting is that the FDA, the American regulatory authorities, they do actually encourage and prioritize treatments that go towards improvement of cognition in general, and that goes then over schizophrenia and CIS. If you have problems with cognition, They are very prevalent in almost all neuropsychiatric disorders. Classical example I always refer to is Alzheimer's disease, which is classical loss of learning and memory.
And how large is this market worldwide?
Well, the total global pharma market is in the trillions. If you focus on schizophrenia alone, you're talking about billions. And if you talk with a specific within cognitive impairment in schizophrenia, you're talking in the upper hundreds of millions. So, I mean, it's difficult to assess because willingness to pay, for example, in a disease where you do not have any treatment, is very big. It's a lifelong disease so far that you need treatment for, and the quality of life impact. So only impacting the patient, but your patient, the patient's family around it also. So the market is in the, I guess, around billions of dollars.
And it's of course
Annually, sorry, I should say.
yeah. And it's of course early to talk about, but there is a market out there, and there is a need. And speaking of which, of course, it is early again. But when could GT00 be launched?
You mean for treatment? Then we're still a couple of years away. I mean, we are right now. This is the first time that GT002 goes into patients. We've done all the trials in healthy volunteers so far. So you're looking at least 2, 3, 4 years into the future if you want to launch it for the treatment of patients. All depending on the results that we're getting. If you do the first clinical trial in patients, you are at the very core of experimental medicine. This is to see
Yeah.
if it works.
And we are eagerly awaiting the results, of course. However, very recently we had news that you filed a provisional patent application in the United States. Could you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, this was actually a result of, there's nothing that I had planned, but this was actually the result of the compilation and the analysis of the data that we had gotten from our clinical trial in healthy volunteers, i.e. the EEG and fMRI data. And there we found a very, very interesting pattern, a very specific and distinct pattern of GT002 affecting the brain activity. And we found that it's in the relevant regions in the brain that are active in cognitive processes. It's relevant in the relevant time and distinct to what's currently on the reference compound, benzodiazepines. So we thought, okay, here we have a situation where we have discovered something that is new because nobody has done this before. We discovered something that is not obvious to the experts in the field. So that was the second criteria. And it's something that is useful. It can be used as a biomarker or as a way of assessing, the potential of a new drug candidate. So then we had the three criteria for patent: novelty, unobviousness, and usefulness. And I said, okay, then we at least put the foot in the door with a provisional patent application. And the people I talked to, the experts, I'm not a patent lawyer, they got very excited about it. So we got one. And now we got 1 year since the provisional application. We've got 1 year to follow up on this. The data that we
Yes.
produce will also, and then in 1 year, the patent becomes public. And
Yeah.
for now, it's
And
still confidential, of course.
it gets the priority of the provisional patent.
Exactly. So the idea is to put it out there. And also this patent, I wanted to put it in before we get out with the scientific publication on the neural fingerprint that we're working on. We want to submit this to actually high quality journal next week. I had planned to do it actually this week or the week before, but it got more complicated with the requirements. So that was the reason why we put in the patent application first.
Get the foot in the door, as you said.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you also repeat in the report your ambition to reach a partnering agreement as early as Q2 2026. Do you think this is realistic?
Uh, yeah, I think so. you know, is it achievable? I think it's definitely achievable. You know, don't underestimate that in the moment that you do have a clinical trial material, Gabather becomes actually very attractive. Now we're going to start the TOTEMS trial. There's a lot of eyes on this particular trial because now we're talking patients, and we also have a material that is GMP, GLP produced. So, you know, then there are other people that might be interested in saying, okay, we looked at the profile of GT002. You have the clinical trial material. Can we maybe do a study together, or can we do a material transfer agreement? So it opens a completely new or a much broader field of partnerships. Is that what we're interested in for GT002, I think.
Well, we are also, and I reiterate, very excited to see how the first patients treated with the GT002 turn out. And as a final question to you, Robin, I'd like to ask, what are the most important activities in the coming quarters?
Well, the most important activity for now is to get the clinical trial started in Denmark, and then to engage in partnership rounds. And then also, once the trial in Denmark is on the way, remember that the trial takes place not in Sweden, but in Denmark. So we are literally, you know, participating in a remote control. But then we have actually resources and time free to look at other clinical trials that we've been thinking about. Now that we have the material to conduct these smaller trials in areas like dementia with a good network in frontotemporal dementia. So, you know, it's a quite it's a good start once the trial in Denmark is on track and starting and going on.
Well, those were all the questions I had for you today, Robin. So thank you so much for joining us today to talk a bit about Gabather.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Brilliant.
Of course. And for all of you, those of you at home who want to know more about Gabather, I'd like to refer you to Västra Hamnen's analysis on the company. We'll be publishing an update following the Q3 report very soon. So please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future updates. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, Jacob.